All right, welcome, guys. Welcome. Guys, welcome. Get started in just a minute. Gonna let everybody trickle on in here. How's everybody doing? Chat's open. Aw, thank you, Deb. Love you. I'm 30 weeks today. Crazy. Welcome, guys. Come on in. Get ready to lock in. All right, guys. Gonna go ahead and get started with little announcements. Just gonna let you guys know what's going on here at BPM RIA. Thank you all for coming in, being on time. Love that. Love to see it. So, welcome everyone. Thank you for joining tonight's February.
Oh, bummer. Oh, bummer. We froze for a second.
Please, guys. Okay. Sorry,
Hey,
guys.
you're back.
Bear with
You're
me.
back. You're back.
Thank goodness. Bear with me, guys. My connection is unstable. So hopefully I stay in here. But Alexa, COO here at BPM RIA. Appreciate you all coming on for our February monthly meeting via Zoom. Happy to have you guys. And of course, this is Broward Palm Beach, Miami-Dade Real Estate Investors Association, your only local and approved chapter here in South Florida that is in compliance and partnered with the National Real Estate Investors Association. We have a super awesome webinar and class for you guys tonight. We're going to discuss how to fund more deals without banks. We have Jason Powers and Michael Fernicola in the virtual building. They will introduce themselves in just a moment, but to get us started off on the best note, we're going to do something fun. And of course, guys, you'll see this QR code on the top of the screen. Go ahead and scan that QR code and book a free discovery call at any point. This is just some time for you and I to connect and for me to support you on whatever your goals are in real estate investing. So, all right. Membership. We're going to be raffling a free membership tonight. So, good luck, everyone. Text the word membership to 954-800-6961. Details are on the screen right now, as well as inside the chat box. So if you guys didn't know there's a chat box, there is indeed a chat box on your screen. You just have to find it. Hopefully, you're on a computer or desktop. If you're on your phone, just going to take a little bit more digging to find it, but I promise you it's there. So, details on how to enter the raffle are in the chat box and on your screen right now. So, go ahead and text that word to that phone number, and you will have a chance to win a 1 year membership, a $295 value. And I will announce the winner at the very end of tonight's session. So, good luck to everyone in here and stay tuned for our winner. If you want to keep up with our events, it's so easy and so convenient to get them via text. My favorite way, absolutely, because I always see my texts first. Don't know why, probably the Apple Watch. But if you would like those as well, go ahead and text BPM REIA, all one word, no spaces, to our event line. Again, you'll get opted into the text list to make sure you get all of those updates for our events that are coming up. So, details are in the chat for that as well, and super convenient and easy for you guys. So hope that helps you all out. Just a quick, we just posted our upcoming dates for our 2-day boot camp. This is going to be on May 2nd and May 3rd, all day live via Zoom, cameras, microphones on, extremely interactive. This is where we're going to cover our favorite strategies here at BPM RIA, which is wholesaling, flipping, and rehabbing. We're going to have 4 incredible guest speakers. Our CEO is going to lead the entire training. And just because I want to make sure you guys are alive out there, I'll go ahead and pop up a quick poll. See if you guys are really paying attention here. And you can let me know if you're interested in our 2-day boot camp, if you've already taken it, or if wholesaling, rehabbing, and flipping are not your thing. I totally get it, you guys. I have a lot of incredible investors in this community that do all sorts of strategies. So love to hear from you, and also love to make sure you guys are out there paying attention and ready for our incredible speakers tonight. So thank you guys so much for answering the poll. I'm going to pop up a couple more for you guys just to make sure you are awake. So get ready for that. All right, members, as you guys know, you get all the goodies. You get the National RIA benefit package. You get all of those amazing discounts. We've actually been doing some exclusive member only networking opportunities. So if you are not a member, go ahead on our website. I'll pop the link in the chat right now. You also get in free for those 4 quarterly networking meetings that we do every year. Of course, you get discounts on our special workshops and things like that. So let me know if you have any questions, you guys. I'm always here to answer any questions about the membership. And we're going to get into some stuff about the membership during this call. We're actually going to have some insider scoop. So you guys stay tuned for that. And thank you for answering the polls. I'm happy to know that you guys are paying attention and ready to learn tonight. So, mentoring and coaching here at BPM RIA, it's the last but very not least thing that I will go ahead and discuss in this introduction. One-on-one coaching and mentoring. Some of you guys may know that we offer this, some of you may not. We have one-on-one coaching available here at BPM RIA, where we put up 100% of the money for our students' deals and split the profit 50-50. You get matched with your own personal mentor. You get everything you need when it comes to software, CRM, your own personal coach, transactional funding, everything you need to do deals right now. If you've never heard about our coaching program, go ahead and book a discovery call. You can book that on our website on bpmria.com. Link is also in the chat. You can also email me if you'd like a copy of the brochure where I that we include, as well as the pricing information for you. Have a full breakdown, you guys. We have a laundry list of items that we include in our coaching program because we set you guys up for success. So please go ahead and book your discovery call. I love to chat with you guys. And when it comes to tuition, we have a third party funding source that you can go ahead and scan this QR code. It's I actually it doesn't affect your credit at all. It's 0% interest, and you will get that response within 24 hours. So if you'd like to leverage all the angles and use our third party funding to invest in your education, your mentoring, here you go. I'll be happy to throw the link in the chat or I'll put it in the follow up email that I send all of you guys at the end of the webinar today. So thank you guys so much for giving me the opportunity to let you know what's going on here at BPM RIA. I appreciate you guys so much. Always want to thank the National RIA, thank all of our incredible vendor partners. You can find them on our website, as well as inside the member portal. All of my members, you guys got to check out those benefits. And there's a reason why I'm saying that, right? We are very proud of our partnership with the National RIA, and that is something that we don't take it lightly. I'm not sure if you guys have heard. I'm sure a lot of you have though, but I have to just keep saying it. Yeah. Woo. So we're super, super honored and grateful for that. Again, guys, we don't take that lightly, and we know it is a big responsibility.
Alexa,
And
will you repeat
we,
that? Just
oh
because you cut out
yes,
right when I want.
yes, absolutely.
I'm sure everybody else does too.
Absolutely. Sorry, you guys. So, if you have not heard, our CEO and president, Anish Dave, is now the president of the National Real Estate Investors Association. Woo! We are super honored and grateful for that opportunity. And we just know that this is going to be just it's a huge responsibility, but we're just very honored nonetheless. And we are really excited to take on another, level of responsibility and just share as much as we absolutely can with the National RIA community and just take as much as we can from it and just it's going to be incredible. So we're really honored and grateful. And with that being said, Mike and Jason, they're going to talk about something that is exclusive to our members only. But of course, they're going to talk about, what if you're not a member of BPM RIA? There's going to be a lot of discussion here. And they're also here to answer your questions, you guys. So please make sure you put those questions in the Q&A box. There is a Q&A. You can direct all of your questions so we don't lose them inside the chat section. Please keep in mind we will record tonight's session. We will post the replay to our YouTube channel. I went ahead and popped that link in the chat and absolutely got to check out the National RIA. If you're wondering why Anish isn't here, the National RIA conference cruise is going on right now as we speak. All of our incredible vendors, members, investors, so many people from our community are actually on the cruise right now, which good for them. I would be there as well, but you guys know I'm too pregnant for that right now. So where I'm at, I am very happy to be here as well. This is one of the topics that is very hitting home for me at this time in my life. And just have to say that our topic tonight, infinite banking, you guys are going to learn all about it. It is something that Anish, our CEO and president, is very passionate about. And it has made very clear to me since I started working for the local RIA. It just so happens to be that when you're, expanding your family and starting a family that it really hits home and it just comes into a whole other perspective. So that's why I am so grateful to have you guys on tonight and extreme no more excuses. Bottom line, this is the future for me and I'm sure a lot of our members here. So without further ado, I would love to bring you guys on and welcome you guys to our webinar and our monthly meeting tonight.
Perfect. Thank you, Alexa. Thank you guys for being here. We're excited to be here. Thank you, Anish, and congratulations. It's amazing news to hear. And so let me just pull up the slides. Jason, if you want to say something while I'm pulling this up, that'd be wonderful.
Yeah. I'm excited to be back again. I'm bummed I'm not on the cruise also. That was a
I know.
blast last year, I think.
It's so much fun. We'll be back, Jason. We'll be back.
That's it. Bounce back. There's too many things going on this time of year, but yeah, it's been fun.
I hear you.
Yeah, let's jump in. My
Yay.
name is Jason K. Powers here with Michael Fernicola, and our job tonight is to put 4 hours of information into one. So you will be drinking from a fire hose, and buckle up. That's what I got to say. Uh, we have a partnership with the National Real Estate Investor Association for we're kind of the official persons for all things infinite banking and life insurance through National RIA. So I have the privilege of teaching different RIAs around the country, and it's been fun over the past few years and just getting out and meeting so many different real estate investors. And we both, Mike and I, have had our toes in real estate investing here and there. I've done my fair share of the gamut of it, And so I was so excited to be able to be in this position to teach other real estate investors because I knew for myself how it was working and how it worked and the benefit of it. And so it's always a privilege to teach other real estate investors. So let's dive in. What do we got
Yeah, and
today?
what's cool, I was just telling Alexa this that, when I first dove into my first infinite banking policy was when I started my family. And so it's kind of a pivotal moment in our lives that it changes and we're like, oh, okay, we've got to do something different. And this is, I think, a really amazing strategy for a lot of people here today. So today, we'll start out how to fund more deals without the bank, right? It's a strategy for cash flow, control, and long-term wealth for real estate investors by Jason and myself. To begin, I'm just going to go over a little overview of what we're going to be touching today. So thinking outside the box, right? This is outside the box thinking. This is not what we're taught in schools, right? We're going to go over lending approaches, right? And some that you've heard, and then one that you maybe haven't yet, right? The vehicle that we use, building the rocket. I like rockets, so this fits really well with what we do. We are going to do a case study. We're going to do case study 1, case study 2, and then we'll end in closing questions and a freebie at the end. So stay tuned for that.
There is, I think, some generalizations of whatever real estate investor really wants to achieve. We obviously want steady cash flow in some form or another. Somehow we're building systems to create steady cash flow for us, right? We need something reliable. We want access to capital because we want to do more deals, right? So speaking of, hey, if you got your chat up while we're talking, I'd love to hear in the next couple minutes, just start posting what kind of real estate investing are you guys into right now? Are you doing the wholesaling, the fix and flips, buy holds, commercial? What are you into right now? Love to see kind of a consensus of what people are into right now. So access to capital for deals, any kind of real estate. We always want access to capital, don't we? We want protection against market volatility. That's kind of why a lot of you are getting into real estate investing. Maybe you're new and you're just getting into it. Maybe you're tired of playing the stock market game, if you will. Maybe you're playing both, but you need some stability, let's call it, in your income. So we want protection against market volatility, and a lot of us want generational wealth. We're building this up for ourselves throughout our own life, but what's next, right? What are we leaving behind for the next generation, for our families and the next generation? A lot of investors, we get stuck, right? So I would say what smart investors, why smart investors still get stuck on the next slide will be, it's loss of access to capital or gets trapped. We put our money into certain things and it just gets trapped. And then we can't get to it, and we'll talk about that for a minute. And we have interest rates eroding. As this says, interest rates eroding is a good one because markets are all over the place. If you've been in this any more than, well, even the last 5 years, kind of, it's been not as much, but 10 years, 15 years, if you've been around since '08, which is when I first got into real estate investing, you've seen interest rates bipolar, right? They're all over the place. Banks are moving slower than the market, or you're ready to make this deal and you're stuck waiting on the bank. And maybe you're waiting to get access to capital and you lose the deal in lieu of. So you get stuck in ways that way. And you don't have enough time, right? And so we're constantly giving away control of our money. And I think one of the things we want to point out today is just that. It's just showing what are we doing with our money, and are there other options? Do we have other options? It's not always a one size fits all approach, most definitely, with our money. Our job today is not to teach you how to do wholesaling, not to teach you how to do fix and flips and so forth. Our job today is to show you something you can do to change the flow of your money to turbocharge your existing real estate investment strategies. Okay. So I want you to keep that in mind as we move forward. See, we lock our money up, we give away control of our money, we put our money into vehicles that we have no control over. Cars, colleges, and credit cards, I say. We finance our cars, we've got colleges to pay for our kids or our own. Maybe we're still paying student loans that have dragged out for years and years. Credit cards, insurmountable amount of debt. And even in qualified accounts, would be tax deferred qualified accounts. Did you get penalized for accessing it? Or you got to jump hoops after hoop after hoop after hoop to access this kind of money? Okay. So we're constantly putting our money into vehicles that we don't really control. Okay. So I want you to think about that. And it is time to think differently about our money. Tonight, as we unpack this, we're going to talk a lot about this term we're using, the infinite banking concept, but this was coined by Nelson Nash. He wrote a book called Becoming Your Own Banker. Got a copy of it over my shoulder here. I'll pull it up later. We'll try to maybe show you a close up of it, but get a copy of that book. Okay. That is where everything starts with this concept. It's really the foundation of everything we're doing. Okay. But he talks about this. It's time to think differently about our money. And he says the most profitable thing we can do is learn to control the money. And I think that's so profound. It's just wealth is built slowly, but it's lost quickly. How many of you have played that game, right? We build wealth, build wealth, build wealth, and it just like that, it can go away. You know, certainly if you were fully in the game when 2008, 2009 came around, you may know exactly what I'm talking about. You know, so it's time to think differently about our money. All right. Now, I'm going to hand this over to Mike here for a few minutes and we'll kind of unpack this a
Yeah,
little bit
and
more.
I touched on this a little bit, but it begins with like an I believe statement, right? Because I believe that our greatest opportunities are outside the box, right? We're here today because we're thinking outside the box, right? You guys are here today because you're thinking outside the box. We're taught all throughout our lives to be kind of in the hamster wheel, right? Never being able to leave. We're in this box, and we don't think that there's any life outside of this box, right? But who is outside the box, and really, how do we get there, right? So who is there? I would say the inventors, right? So the people that are bringing or coming up with something from nothing, right? They're inventing things. They're adding value where there was no value. And then these are the business owners, right? They're planting seed for us to take part in, right? They're building businesses. And then there's the real estate investors, right? And this is what you guys are, whether you're fresh into it or you've been in it a long time. You're starting to, or you are thinking outside the box with your wealth. And that's really what this comes down to is, can you think outside the box, and how do you think outside the box? Right? This guy, which some of you may know, Robert Kiyosaki, right? He says income is less important than financial structure. The cash flow systems matter more than returns is a concept that he kind of created. And he says the rich focus on building assets, everyone else focuses on income. And so everything that we do throughout school is focused on income, where we are supposed to focus on really building our assets. And then as that comes, we are able to develop our net worth and become further ahead, right? And so we're going to dive into the traditional banking problem, right? And so maybe in the chat or by emoji hands, if you've ever had a problem with taking a loan out, with going to the bank and trying to get a loan. I remember when I bought my first business, I went to the bank to get a loan, and I wanted to get one, and they said, "Hey, you can't get a loan because it wasn't 2 years old or this." And I changed the name and did all this stuff, and they wouldn't accept the history of the business because of the things that I've changed. And so there was a lot of things that came against me. So if you've ever had that problem when you're going to the bank and you're trying to get a loan, like just throw up a thumbs up, or say I did in the chat, or I have in the chat. But here's where we run into issues, and this is really why we got to change the banking function in our life, because we have lengthy approval processes. A lot of times when we're dealing with the bank, it's time consuming. There's a lot that goes into it, right? We have high interest rates and fees and variable rates, right? And then there's the stringent qualifications and criteria, right? For me, I wasn't able to do it, even though I should have been able to get a loan. They wouldn't allow me to. A lot of times, and I talk to my real estate investor clients, a lot of them, and when they were moving from their W-2 job over to real estate investing full time, they weren't able to go and get the loans that they once did because they don't have the proof of income that they do now, and they don't have the proof of success in the real estate world. So could there be another way? And that's really what we're going to get into today. And so here's the traditional approach. When we're looking at this, we're seeing traditional bank loans and hard money loans. And then I have this little box over there that we'll get into. And so on the left-hand side, we have approval process, collateral, interest, points, and repayment terms. Right. And so we see traditional bank loans, 30 to 90 days. You need a good credit score, extensive docs in order to get them. Hard money, 5 to 15 days, right? Asset based, minimal docs, but a lot of times you need a relationship with the lender. Collateral, both of these need real estate or property as collateral. Sometimes 20 to 40% down on hard money loans, right? But usually it's a quicker evaluation for the hard money loans. Right. The interest destination, the banks profit off traditional loans, the private money lender profits off of the hard money loans. Interest rates can range. This was done a few years ago, but 6 to 8% credit based, right? For traditional bank loans, hard money loans are 8 to 15% asset based, right? There's points and fees attached to both usually. Traditional bank loans, 15 to 30 years, fixed payments. You can prepay it, but you're kind of fixed in there. You're locked in there. Hard money loans, 6 months to 5 years, sometimes interest only. And then you have balloon payments. And so there's all these things that happen. And so with this other way, right, which is the personal banking system, what happens is you could get a loan for 3 to 7 business days, right? No credit check, right? You're the owner of it, right? So you're the policy owner, so you own that. The policy is built on cash value, so you don't need collateral because you already have it built in. They owe you. There's no property needed as collateral, right? It benefits the policy owner. The interest rates are very good, so usually 3.5 to 6% and policy based. There's no fees or points, and it's flexible. And this is the biggest thing is it's a flexible payment schedule where you get to choose because you become now your own bank, right? And then loans are not taxable, interest is not deductible unless it's a business expense, but I would talk to CPA about that one as well. So what is this personal banking system?
I think this concept let's hold here for a second, and as we unpack this, we're drawing the contrast between we have traditional bank loans, we have hard money, private money loans. Those are the classic approaches, right? And those are helpful and handy. And then I think we lost your share, Mike, there.
Oh,
And then but what I want you to understand as we move forward, what is this personal banking system, privatized family banking system that we're going to talk about now is this is something to work towards, right? This is not an overnight process. And this is something I think 100% of the people we sit down with are like, I wish I would have started this 5 years ago. I wish I would have started this 10 years ago. We say, well, when's the best time to plant a tree, right? Well, it was, 100 years ago. When's the second best time to plant a tree? Today.
yeah.
Okay. So the point is it's not going to be an overnight thing. Wiggle your nose and boom, you're there. You're funding 100% of everything you do moving forward. This is a process. So that leads me to this infinite banking concept is the concept itself is a process. It's not a product. Okay. We're not talking about a product when we talk about the infinite banking concept. The concept itself is about controlling the banking function in your life. Okay. Because we just talked about where do we put our money where we don't have control of it? We've lost control of it. Other people are in control, right? We are enslaved in a way to this debt that we have put out there. What would life be like if we could turn the table and loan ourselves money? What would life be like if we never had to borrow from an outside lender again? How much more control would we have? And I don't want you to just limit yourself to thinking about real estate investing. Think of everything you finance in your life. Everything you finance in your life. You can do this. So you're not restricted to just real estate investing, although that's the context with which we're talking tonight. Okay, so the concept again is about controlling the banking function. It's about guarantees, it's about safety, and it's about access. Okay, guarantees, we know what our money's doing. It's safe. We're not going to lose it in the markets or something like this, or then someone's not going to call our loan and da da da. And we have access to it. It's liquid. We can access it when we want. Okay.
Yeah,
Not
and I
so.
think something to touch on here, like when you're investing, you want risk to be in your investment, and then you want your capital to be in the safe place, right? To be growing and accessible. And that's a
Right.
really good way to look at it.
Right. And so that's the concept at a high level. Again, we could talk about just this alone for an easy hour, I think. And but the concept is that control. Okay, the vehicle, the product, if you will, is on the next slide here. It's the process of using a properly structured dividend paying permanent insurance policy to finance purchases and investments. Okay. And it will grow. All right. So it's a properly structured dividend paying whole life insurance product from a mutual carrier is another way to word it that we'll talk about. So we get kind of wordy about it because it's particular. It's not just, hey, you just walk down the street and stop at your first insurance agency and walk in there and say, I want to start a whole life policy. I'm going to do private family banking with it. You'll probably get a blank stare. Or they're going to go, okay, sweet, how much you want to put into a policy? And they're going to give it to you. And then you're going to call us later going, this is all wrong. This doesn't make any sense, da da da, because it was structured wrong. So properly, there's this very specific way to structure these to maximize the advantages of that policy. Okay. We say dividend paying from a mutual carrier because there's mutual insurance carriers and there's stock owned insurance companies. And so we use mutual carriers. Basically, as a policyholder, you're one of the owners of the company, thus entitled to the profits which come in the form of dividends. So, and again, we're not going to, we'll unpack it a little bit on another call sometime, but that's why we get wordy about it. You see, it's not just go get whole life insurance. Okay. It is very specific. And
Yeah.
it is permanent life insurance, whole life insurance in the context of today's conversation. All right. So let me give you a kind of a contrast the two. Everyone has heard of classic term insurance, right? We all know term insurance. We've heard the slogan, buy term, invest the difference. And that works for certain people, not most. Buy term, invest the difference, right? You pay a premium, you get a death benefit. I would categorize that as if insurance. Okay. And the next one is classic whole life, which a lot of us have heard of. And whole life is permanent insurance. It's designed to last for your whole life. So that's why we say when insurance, because you will have that insurance for your whole life, as long as you're paying premiums. So when you die, it will pay a death benefit. But whole life insurance has this component to it called cash value. And the average bear doesn't realize you can borrow against that cash value. The life insurance company is saying, hey, we're going to give you access to a portion of your death benefit in the form of cash. We're going to collateralize your death benefit and we're going to loan you our money so that you can use some of it while you're living. All right. Classic whole life. You pay a premium, you get a death benefit, and you get some nominal cash value growth over time. What we're doing is on the next slide, we're taking this classic whole life structure and we're going to restructure it. Remember, I said properly structured? And we're going to introduce a different component called paid up additions. So you don't need to memorize this. This is our job. We're just kind of give you some behind the scenes picture of how it's structured. Okay. Paid up additions. So let's say in classic whole life, if you walked into that carrier off the street and you said, I want to buy a whole life policy, here's $10,000 for the year. They're going to give you what's called a base premium, all base premium policy. You pay that and you get your death benefit and whatever the cash value is. Year one, it's zero, almost 100% of the time. All right. So we're going to take that same 10 and we're going to break it up into two parts. So we may say, hey, let's make some of it the base premium. Remember, the first one was all base. The second one restructured, we're going to take that base down and it's just going to be, I'm just picking three, right? We can make the ratio, whatever makes sense for you and your strategy. But for this example, let's say $3,000 base and $7,000 PUA, paid up additions. Basically what's happening in short is you're buying death benefit at a different rate. But because you're buying it this way, you get even more access to cash value along the way. Okay, that's the piece you need to remember. Because we have PUAs, we get more cash value. Okay, so of this, all this stuff and the terminology, don't get caught up on it. Because you have PUAs, you get more cash value right now. Overfunding, people call it overfunding their life insurance policy, but it's done a specific way. All right, so let's move on. I just want to kind of give you a behind the scenes approach of just what that looks like.
Yeah, and when we're looking at these policies, so this is essentially the same 10,000 that we were just looking at, except it's broken up into the top one being no PUAs and the bottom one being properly structured or high, I think it's around 75% to 80% PUAs, right? And so you see the same 10,000 in here, and I think you can see my cursor, right? And
Yes.
then you see zero cash value. So when there's no PUAs, you have no access to capital. At the end of the year, you'd have about $71 in cash value, right? So now when we go down to this one down here with PUAs, that same 10,000 on the same person, right, will lend to them $7,600 day one and around 7,657 at the end of year one. And so you would be able to access that capital way sooner for that compounding growth. I have also highlighted in green 7 years. So with whole life, you're cash in, cash out whole. So, I mean, and this depends on health rating and age a little bit as well. But based on this policy, usually you're cash in, cash out whole around this year seven. So if 10,000 went in 7 years, that's $70,000. You would be around $70,000 in year seven. After that, your compounding continues to go up as well. And so, with that, that is just a policy that has PUAs and a policy that doesn't. Based on an individual strategy, sometimes there's less PUA, sometimes there's more. You have to really determine it based on your goals and your situation. And so today we're going to build a rocket because I like rockets. And so what's a rocket need to take off? And so we're comparing the two, the IBC policy to building a rocket or having a rocket. And so what we need are these components, right? And components really make this rocket ship work. And so the rocket ship as a whole is a whole life insurance policy, right? This is the means that transports you, right, from ground level, which is what we know, to orbit, which is long-term continuous compound growth, and liquidity or access to capital, right? It's built to last for decades, right? It is carefully engineered and regulated for durability. It's been around a really long time, right? And so people have been using this, companies have been using this for a really long time. And it's really important to structure it the right way, and we'll get into why, right? We have the main rocket, the body of it, right? This is like the fuel tank. This is the base premium. And we went over there, Jason's slide, where it separated the base premium from the PUAs, right? This serves as the fundamental structure. This is like what keeps you together, right? It's the contractual and assured foundation of whole life, right? It represents the element that remains consistent, and it provides that long-term stability and assurance that it will be there your whole life. The function of it is to maintain the validity of it, right? Policy's validity. So it keeps it intact. As long as that base is paid, the policy will be there. It allows for PUAs to be possible. But when we look at those, the words below that, right, where it says excessive base is a heavy rocket. If there's too much base, we saw that you don't have enough cash value to really hit orbit, right? If there's insufficient base and there's all PUAs, right, the rocket is very unstable and it's not performing well. And so there's really this happy medium that you need, right? And then we have the boosters. Every rocket needs a boosters to go through orbit, and that's where the PUAs or paid up additions come in. The purpose is to provide that strong initial push, right, to get that policy up off the ground, right? It overcomes the initial hurdles, which is the early low cash value, the fees in the beginning, right? And then the impatience of not having um, that cash value, right? The policy that didn't have the PUAs had a zero cash value for a while and wasn't very efficient. The function of a PUA is to speed up that early cash value growth and advance the compounding effect up front and early. While the rocket can still fly without the boosters, a lot of people have policies without the PUAs. Its progress is significantly slower. So you'll be way ahead if you start that policy off on the right foot. Then we have the guidance and the navigation computer, right? Policy design, right? This represents you, sorry, you, the carrier, the illustration, right? And then us as the agent, right? This controls a whole bunch of the different things, right? So you're only as good as the way that your policy is designed, and your policy is only as good as if it's designed correctly with those that you trust and that you understand what's going on. Fuel, which represents the capital you invest in it. If every rocket ship needs fuel, right? You need premium payments. You need certain payments in order for it to function and get to the moon or get to orbit or get to your goals, right? And these have to be deliberate, focused, and regular, whether that's annually or monthly or whatever it may be. But the fuel, what's nice is it doesn't vanish, right? It converts into cash value, which we saw in a couple of those illustrations, and we'll see a little bit more coming up. And then your mission, right? And these are your goals, right? Not every rocket is going to be designed to get to Mars or to the moon, right? Your goals and your rocket is made specifically for you, right? What's it transporting? Is it your family legacy? Is it the expansion of your business? Is it property investments? Obviously, we're dealing with real estate today, and so it's like, is that what your rocket is meant to do? Right? Is it charitable giving or retirement or multiple? Right? It could be investing in properties now and retirement later, right? The policy itself is not the focus, but the mission is. And so the goal is to come alongside the goals, come alongside the real estate, and to say, will this supercharge what you're already doing? And
I
so,
think that's important. I think that's important to remember, just to reiterate that comment, Mike, is you are building this, what we originally called, private family banking system, right? You're building this system, you're getting this system in place, you're building this rocket, which has a lot of components to it, and we're helping you navigate that and understand that over time. You're not going to understand 100% of it in 1 hour, you know.
yeah,
And there's a lot of components to it, but I think just understanding the main idea is, how do I change the flow of my money into a system that I can control and then I can do better with than I was doing, right?
yeah. Yeah, and that's great. And I think that's really the important part is to say how do I get there faster? How can I do that? How can I change the flow? It's not by changing what you're doing. It's by altering the way that you're getting there. Um, yeah, and so here what we'll have is the breakdown of this a little bit more, right? And so right here, if let's say year one was $20,000, right? If this is all base premium, there would be $0 in there. And once again, don't get hung up on numbers. This is just to show you what happens within the policy and how it functions. All right. So what we want to do is get a policy, let's say $20,000, if it's properly structured, to get a base in there, and but also that PUA or flex paid up rider, it's interchangeable in order to get to the moon in which we want to, right? And so we have the base premium as the main body of that rocket, and then you have the 70 to 80% paid up rider as the boosters. And these fall off eventually, right? Because as a rocket hits orbit, what happens is the boosters fall off and you're able to maintain momentum with just that base premium or that base of the rocket ship. And so as we dive into this, let's say this is structured in such a way where 20,000 goes in and you'd have about 16,000 liquid or available to you as cash value, right? And then year two, the same thing, but you could see that the growth in cash value is around that 20K that got put in, right? Because we have those boosters on, because we have those PUAs set in the right way, this is what's happening. And so we're going to go down to, let's say, year 10, and you've put in, let's say, 20,000 for the first 10 years. And what you see is 20,000 for 10 years is 200. You're about 20,000 over what you would have put in, right? And so at this point, let's say the rocket boosters, and this is for illustration purposes, but we see a death benefit here. We see that increasing as you get closer to graduation day or the moon or the goal in which you have, you will have more death benefit than early on. And that's really what we want to try and do is move that to when you really need it, not right off the bat. In year 11, right, we see the rocket boosters fall off and just the base premium is left. So that 4,000. So just the main part of that rocket is there. And what we see is a $13,000 growth. Okay, so 4,000 went in and you see 13,000. So where did that come from? That came from 4,000 in new premium, right? It came from a $3,000 dividend and then a $6,000 compound interest. And so as we're looking at this policy, the rocket boosters fell off, but the momentum of the policy is still going forward, or the momentum of that rocket ship is still moving forward.
Now, before we move on to the next slide, I want I want you to keep in mind here, remember when we showed you the comparison of whole life term and whole life, the cash value, which is here in the middle, the cash value is what you can borrow against. So you're not putting 20,000 a year in on the left-hand side and it's stuck in there and you just got to build it up until you're ready to pull it out per se, right? You, let's say day one, this person put 20 in, day two, he had 16 in cash value he could extract and utilize for real estate investing or whatever else he needs to. Okay.
Right.
So I want you to understand the cash value is what we're borrowing against. And because it's life insurance, you have the death benefit component to it.
Right. And a good way to look at that cash value is equity, right? When we're talking real estate, we talk about real estate properties and equity, right? The cash value is essentially equity within your policy. And that's a good point you bring up because when we're going into this next scenario here is, well, how do I utilize this and why would I utilize this? And so um, here, let's say you're in year 10, you've got 220,000 sitting there. You say, hey, I need to buy a property, right? For $200,000, I'm going to loan that money to myself. So I'm going to take $200,000 loan. I'm going to pay 4% in interest, right? And then I'm going to amortize that myself. So I'm going to say I want to amortize that over the next 10 years. And so what I would pay is 42,000 in interest, which could be deductible. But talk to your CPA. And some of you are thinking right now, well, why would I pay 42,000 in interest when I could have just used 200,000 that I saved up, right? And that's really the question is why would I do this when I could have just paid cash? Well, because the whole 220 is growing uninterrupted in compound interest, right? So that's growing in compound interest. So over that 10-year period of where you loaned yourself the money, you would have earned inside the policy $163,000 over that same 10-year period. So you could have used cash, but you would have foregone the earnings of $163,000,
And
right?
I put a thought in there. I want to restate that just for a second. He's saying it's growing as if the money never left.
Correct.
That's all. I love that
Yeah.
part.
And that's exactly right. So your money is growing at 220, even though you took out a $200,000 loan, right? And you're being a good steward by paying your loan back, just as if you would have get a mortgage or would have get a loan from a private money lender. You just are that private money lender. And in return, you've earned inside that policy $163,000. So you would have grossed or netted $120,000 in growth, which is tax-free growth, if we want to say that, where that is pretty unbelievable by using the same money that you would have anyway.
Yep. Yep. It's neat to see it unfold. Okay. And obviously, we're biased, but I tell you, um, we were practitioners before we got into this as a career. I was doing infinite banking before I got into it as a career. And I saw the benefits of it,
Yeah.
so much so that I eat, breathe, and sleep it now. Right. And I think that that example, that final example there of the fact that my money can grow in this vehicle, even though I accessed it, it's still growing as if that pile never left. And there's not another vehicle out there like that, I promise you. Okay. Let's do a case study. Let's put it to real life application. This case study I want to show you is a client of mine. And when we met, we sat down and I was just wanted to understand his real estate investment strategies. He had a pile of rentals, small rentals, single family, 1 and 2 bedroom houses in a small college town in a small town Midwest. And he was just picking them up one at a time. What he was doing was pocketing the free cash flow from the rental, putting it in a savings account and saving up. And then when he would have enough, he would go pay cash for another one. All right. So not a terrible strategy. He had his day job. He didn't need that income. That's why it worked so well for him, because he was like, I don't need this income right now. He was stockpiling. He understood one rental isn't going to get him anywhere. He needed to keep stacking rentals to get there for retirement purposes. Okay. And then he had his day job to get him, buy him time. So he was putting 36 grand a year away into the savings account. And then as he would have enough, he would buy these, again, small town Midwest, he'd buy these little 1 and 2 bedroom houses for 50, 75 grand a pop. And when we met, I think he already had 8 of them, I think, and he was still full speed ahead. So the discussion became, hey, that's a wonderful strategy. Let's not change your strategy. Let's change the flow of the money. What happens if instead of you just plopping it down in a savings account, what if we put it through a policy first? What if we put that money inside of a policy and then we could borrow against the policy over time? All right. So what you see on the screen here, a lot of numbers, don't get hung up on it. In his case, again, he was putting 36,000 a year away. And so we said, okay, let's look at 36,000 a year for just like 10 years. Let's put it in a policy and see what happens. We're going to access it along the way, remember. So year 1, we would say, is your greatest loss of access, I guess, is one way you could put it, where you can't quite get out what you're putting in. Because that's your startup cost. Like you started a new business, in effect. You could look at it that way. I started a new business. I'm putting in 36. In his case, he could get 23 out. Either way, if he put 36 into the bank account, it still wasn't enough to buy a property. All right. So no matter what, he couldn't access that 36 that year. It wasn't going to do anything for him. So he was going to continue funding it. So just to show you that. I'm not going to get caught up on this. I just wanted to show you the illustration. You'll see where the red box is. He'll do 36 for 10 years. And then you'll see it drop down to 12,000 after that. That's dropping some of that, what we've called the PUA, the paid up additions, or the overfunding. And so we've dropped some of that along the way. Okay, so that's the big number. We built a spreadsheet. I love spreadsheets. And I want to show you what it looks like. All right, so let me give you the first arrow, and then we will identify. Okay, Mike, if you could run your mouse or something over the annual premium column, just so they see where the annual premium is, kind of in the middle there. And then, yep, so that's where our 36 a year is. You guys see that? 36 a year is going in the annual premium, all right? Over where that red arrow is his net cumulative cash value, all right, that he would have any particular year. All right, net. So year 1, 36 in, not enough. Year 2, we put 36 in. Now there's enough, okay? So now he's going to pull 50,000. He's going to borrow against the policy for 50,000. And then he's going to go buy property number 1, all right? And you'll see that next arrow pop up. We'll show you property number 1. Now, what has he done? He's playing the bank now. He is his own banker now. He is going to loan his real estate investment business the money. He's going to charge it the 4% interest rate, set himself up with a 20-year AM loan. That's $303 a month. All right. We picked 20-year. Make it what you want. Okay. Because you're in control. But he wanted to recoup that money. We always say, if you borrowed money from anybody else, would you not pay it back? You have an obligation to pay it back. Be an honest banker with yourself and have a plan to pay yourself back. Okay. Every penny you repay back to yourself is there to be used again on something else, minus the interest cost, which we'll get into. Okay, so he set himself with a 4%, 4%, 20-year AM loan. That's $303 a month. Now, Mike, if you'll circle kind of year number 3, Year 3, we put in premiums of 36,000. And then you'll see the net cash value is 39 and change on the far right, which is not quite again, not 50. Okay, so my arrows disappeared on that one, I know, but 39, not enough in there. So year 4, so we're going to skip year 3. We're not going to buy anything year 3. Year 4, we're going to fund the policy again, and there's enough. And he could take a $50,000 loan against this policy, and we're going to go buy property number 2. Okay. And just to run this out, we ran the same numbers. So let's go to the next arrow. And then that's property number 2. Again, we just said, okay, 4% 20-year AM loan, 303 a month again. Now, where this arrow points, that green column is the 303 a month loan repayment. And you'll see, because it's now 2 properties, you'll see it double, right? 606 a month. So rental income is paying this 303 a month per property, just like you would be paying your own mortgage if you had a mortgage, traditional mortgage. Okay. So over a 20-year period, he's going to pay that. You can make it 10 years, make it 15, make it 2. I don't care. Okay. He just wanted to spread it out. And we just said, let's see what it looks like.
Right. And and that's why he keeps reiterating that, because it looks different for everybody. In this case is going to look different than your case. In my case, it looks different than Jason's. And that's why this is a very individualized plan when we do a plan like this.
Yep. And something interesting happens here. Remember, we talk about this uninterrupted compounding that starts happening inside of your policy. Now, he's 4 years in and bought 2 properties. That was skipped year 1, skipped year 3. And year 4, he bought this one. Okay. And then year 5, he put 36 in, and he had enough to get 50 out. And so he went and bought property number 3, set himself up with the exact same payment schedule. That's why you see his repayments jump from 606 to 909. You guys with me so far? All right. Let's make sure we didn't put everybody to sleep. Hit. Tell me where you're from in the chat. Tell you where you guys calling in from. I want to know if anybody's calling in from out of state. Actually, I'm curious. See what kind of range we got of people. Just
Come on, guys. This will give you something to talk to Anish about. So,
we got Maryland.
Make sure you're paying attention.
That's good. That's good. Listen, something interesting happens because of the uninterrupted compounding inside of your policy. We got to year 5, and he could put 36 in and get 50 out. We do it again year 6 here at the top. He put 36 in. He can get 50 out by property number 4. And again, year 7, he can do it again. He put 36 in, he can get 50 out. Year 8, 36 in, 50 out. 6, property number 6. Let's keep going. Let's go again. Year 9, year 10. Okay, stop here. Now, he could do this in perpetuity at this point because the compounding growth has taken over. That rocket is flying now. It is in full orbit, and he's doing well. Okay, where are we going to go? We're going to go to the moon. We're going to go to Saturn now. Okay, but you'll see here after 10 years at the top, we said, okay, well, let's say we bought property number 8, and plus the ones he already had. Remember, what happens if we just call it good? We're saying, okay, we're not going to buy any more properties. Fine, he could keep going. But remember on the original illustration I showed you, we went ahead and reduced premiums after 10 years down to 12. And you'll see that reflected here in year 11. Reduce premiums. Let's not take a policy loan this year. And or anymore, let's just show what it looks like. Now, he certainly can. Because you'll see on the far right, every dollar he pays back into his policy is attributing to the cash value growth. 64, 69, 75, 85. By year 12, he's got 100,000 sitting in there in cash value. He's paying back 27 a month plus the guaranteed growth component of the policy. So let's go to the next slide. We just want to fast forward a little bit more and see what happens. Year 15, year 16. Okay, year 15 to 16, he paid 12,000 in premiums, but the cash value alone grew 36,000. Now stop there. In another situation, any other situation, people are, well, maybe you're getting, I don't want to pay 12,000 in premiums. That's a lot. That's a lot of money to keep paying. Well, okay. That's fine. In any other situation, forget life insurance. In any other situation, if I say, give me 12,000, I'm going to give you 36,000. Would you do it? Heck yeah, you would. And you'd say, how much more can I put in?
Yeah.
Is that right? So year 16 to 17, because the compounding is now taken over, 12,000 premiums in, 36 in cash value growth you can now access, plus onto the next one, plus the loan repayments that's attributed to that. So he's recapturing that 27 a month. That is, let's go one more. What is that? I mean, $52,000 cash value increase, $52,000 increase in 1 year. He could have kept buying properties, right? And he may choose to, and it's your prerogative. So I just want you to show you the power of compounding. Don't get hung up on the dollar amount. You put 1,000 a year in, you put 100,000 a year in, right? Functionally, it works the same. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So don't get caught up on that. Still with me? Let's do one more. Let's do one more. Let's take this one. I want to show this one, and this one is saying, let's use the. Do we have the graph on the next one? I think.
Yep.
A lot of things going on here. I'm only going to worry about these middle numbers where the red boxes are. Okay. The orange, maybe yellow on your screen. The orange is his cumulative, a different person now, his cumulative premiums throughout his entire life. This person was paying 25 a year for a while, and then they're going to reduce it over time. The purple lines, the purple numbers is his cumulative cash value that year. All right. So on average, the way we structure these, somewhere between years 2 and 4, the cash value is growing more than the premiums. On average, somewhere between years 6 to 10, the cumulative cash value catches up, surpasses your cumulative outlay. Okay, so it's made up for that first year or two. And then it's off to the races. The compounding takes off. If you look, this person has access to that cash value along the way. So throughout their life, they are going to be funding their policy. You know, on one hand, you think about, you got two hands here, two pots going on. On one hand, you're funding your banking system. I'm going to fund my banking system. And on the other hand, I'm going to use my banking system. I'm going to borrow, pay back, borrow, pay back, borrow, pay back throughout my life. But I want to keep funding that system. Okay. Most people want to accomplish this in their real estate investing career anyway. We want to get to a point where we can fund our own deals, do we not? We want to get to a point where we're putting enough away that we can then fund our own deals. But if we fund our own deal, what do we need to do? We need to replenish the pot so we can keep funding our own deals. Isn't that right?
Yep.
So the same idea is happening inside of your policy. We're building up your banking system, and then we're creating your own lending system. Okay, now you control the banking function in your life. All right, so in their case, by the time he got to age 65, he put in, $590,000 in premiums throughout his entire life. He was using it throughout his entire life. Borrow, pay back, cars, colleges, and credit cards, man. And he's accumulated $1.4 million in cash value. That is over $800,000 difference. That spread, that gain, if you will, inside the policy is not taxable. It's income tax free because that money stays inside the policy. You will always access it as a policy loan, and the IRS does not tax on loans. Okay. Now, I want to address real fast. Someone brought up a term called MEC, M-E-C, Modified Endowment Contract. For simplistic explanation, that means the product becomes taxable implications. We are structuring policies so that as designed, you will never run into a taxable implication with that policy. Okay. Correct.
Yes, it's very hard to mech a policy if you design it correctly. It would have to go through us, it would have to go through the carrier, and it would have to go through you in order to mech the policy. But we design them in such a way that it will never mech.
So now that this person's got to 65 to 70, right? You see from 65 to 70, how much more premium did we put in? Someone type that number in the chat. How much more premium from 65 to 70 did we put in? I'll move on after one answer. One answer. How much more premium was put in from age 65 to 70? Thank you. Zero. None. We stopped funding the policy because we had so much growth. We don't need to keep funding it anymore. How much did the cash value grow? Even though we were no longer funding the policy ourselves, the cash value grew what? Over 300,000, 350,000 almost. You pay zero to get 350,000? Yes, sir, you would. Okay. What am I going to do with that now that I've reached retirement? And we haven't even talked about the death benefit, right? That very top row is the death benefit that comes with this policy. Okay. Now, before we move on to the next slide, I want to talk about the uninterrupted compounding. Give one quick example. Mike, maybe show us where the 200,000 cumulative premiums is. That'll be an easy example for me since you used that one. 200,000, just like Mike's example. There's 207 in there. If we took a $200,000 loan, policy loan that year, and then the very next set of numbers is 10 years later. Say we keep funding our banking system, right? So 10 years later, over 10 years, we put 230 in, but our cash value will grow to a gross 586 minus the 200 we'd had out 10 years ago. So it'll be 386 the day before we pay it back. So if I took 200,000 out, in every other vehicle, it's growing on the 7,000 you left in there, right? In here, it's growing as if the whole 207 is still there. Okay.
Right. And that's a huge thing to like what he just said. In any other vehicle, whether it's IRA or whatever you take out, right? It's only growing on what you leave in.
Mhm.
Here, it's growing on the entire amount, even what's taken out.
Mm-hmm. So I keep mentioning that throughout this webinar because to me, that's the most important thing. To me, I'm this uninterrupted compounding, the fact that I can use my money and it still grows as if it never left
Yep.
is fantastic. Okay. Okay, fast forward, we're at 65, 70. We've got 1.7 million built up at age 70. What are we going to do with it? We're ready to retire. We also have our rental income. Don't forget that. Okay, so on to the next slide. How does this pan out? Here's that illustration, one of the illustrations like we looked at earlier. These are the same numbers that were in the graph just now. Remember, 590,000 in premiums by age 70, 1.7 million in cash value, and we are ready for retirement. So you'll see on the next arrow, we're going to stop funding the policy. We don't need to fund it anymore for the rest of our life. We've got enough momentum going. And then on the next arrow, you'll see we're going to begin taking a $100,000 a year policy loan for retirement. This $100,000 a year policy loan is income tax free because it's a policy loan. Okay. And there is enough growth momentum. This person could do this easily for the next 20 years. Okay. So retirement, they used it throughout their entire life. Borrow, pay back, borrow, pay back, borrow, pay back. Maybe even into retirement, some of it, right? But then they hit retirement and they're like, okay, we're good. I'm going to supplement. In their case, they just bought a whole bunch of real estate throughout their life, so with this too. So I'm going to supplement my retirement with additional 100,000 a year. You don't have to, right? You could do it every other year if you want to, or every fifth year, or once. I mean, once, whatever. But they could take $100,000 a year
Yeah.
as income, and then use it for however they want. Because the life insurance company, they are collateralizing the death benefit with your policy loans. So every dollar I borrow against the policy, if it's outstanding at the time I graduate, they will reduce that amount from the death benefit and pay the difference to the beneficiary. So on the screen here, in the very, very far right column is the net death benefit accounting for outstanding policy loans. So you see they go from 2.9 million down to 2 million, down to 1.4 way at the bottom. Here's the power of this. This person could live on $100,000 a year income tax-free retirement. That's it, Mike, right there. And over 20 years, that's $2 million they will have lived on. They only paid 590 into their policy throughout their entire life. And if they were to graduate at age 90, it'll still pay 1.4 million out to the beneficiary. Okay. That is the power of this kind of vehicle. This isn't just flippantly done, right? This is because you've structured this with intent. You are funding your banking system throughout your entire life. You are being an honest banker and paying yourself back over time in some way, shape, or form. Okay. Now, we are we're okay on time, Alexa? We got a couple more minutes. I'm gonna take this.
Yes, we technically end at 8:30. So we got 20 more minutes.
Great.
Get your
Love,
questions in the
love
Q&A,
20 more
people.
minutes.
Yes, sir.
Yes. I'm
Art
gonna take
Gibson
this
had a
one.
phenomenal comment. He said, use 100K to fund your kids' policies, right? Which is great. If you don't need it in retirement because you've gotten so many rental properties up there, right? Use 100K to fund the next generation. And that's really what we're getting into here.
Yeah, yeah. So this is, we talk about all the things we do in real estate investing. If you have families, you know, when I sit down with people, one of my questions is often, why do you want to do this? Why do you want to do real estate investing? What do we want? What kinds of things do we want? Freedom, control, freedom, control. This is probably the two most common things that come up. And you've got families, and we need to think beyond ourselves. What happens? We built this empire for ourselves. Now what? When we leave it behind, let's think generationally. How can we make a system like this go intergenerationally? Okay, when I talk to people, we talk about how you can create this financial velocity that can literally last for generations. And that's not fluff. Okay, this example I'm going to show you on the screen is actually one that I am doing. So I can show you this is how it works. Okay, this is one strategy, right? There's a bunch you could do, but one strategy. First generation has to start it. Okay, that's this one at the top. First generation has to start something. Fund your own private family banking system. You get it going, use it throughout your life. Okay, and then the next generation. I've got kids. I'm insuring my kids. They are insured. They are youngins too. I got them insured young. Mike, that's how you got into it to begin with, right?
Yep, that's correct.
Yeah. Insure the this generation here. Now, I have a family trust set up so that the death benefit, the beneficiary of my policy upon my passing will fund the family trust. That trust becomes now the family bank. All right. So my kids will never need to go to an outside bank again, really. And every generation thereafter, the death benefit can supply that family trust. The family trust is then instructed to continue buying policies on each generation. So not only will it have the core death benefit amounts that you're funding it with each generation, it owns the policies too. And because it owns the policies, it can utilize the cash value in those policies. And that's how you can take this to multiple generation after generation after generation. And you can create this financial velocity that can literally last for generations. You know, Rockefellers are what, 6 generations in, still going strong because of a strategy like this. You call it the waterfall method.
Yep.
Okay. They're not messing around. And put some control on it. Let's go back one real quick, and then I'll wrap that up and put some control around it. My family's going to be a little annoyed. I want everybody to read Becoming Your Own Banker by Nelson Nash. Okay. I said I was going to pull it up here. If you can see my screen, I know we're sharing our screen, but if you can see Becoming Your Own Banker on the screen, that's the book I want you to get. It's like a 92-page read. It's not that big. Okay. I have a copy. I chopped off the spine, I 3-hole punched it, and I put it in with my trust documents. It is a requirement for people to borrow from the trust to have read the book. That's how important it is to me that they understand, why did I go through all this trouble? You know, this isn't just free money. You're not just a trust fund baby, et cetera, right? I want you to understand we want to control the banking function in our life. And that's why we set something like this up. Okay, next slide. Lots of benefits. Lots and lots and lots. Okay, the first one, grows uninterrupted. We just talked about that. I don't need to camp there. We have guaranteed growth as a guaranteed growth component, income tax free. Okay, when structured the way we structure it for you, income tax free growth. Safe from investment busts. It's non-market correlated, meaning this has nothing to do with outside markets. When the markets are crashing outside, people with policies, they're sitting back enjoying their dinner. They can sleep at night. Okay. Unstructured loans, when you borrow against your policy, you get to dictate the loan terms. Loans are not tied to your credit. You, me, and the insurance carrier know about it, right? Use it now, as we talked about, retire later if you want, and of course, generational wealth transfer. Okay. And so many more benefits. It's just a snippet of them, right? There's so many more benefits of it.
Yeah. And so, we'll leave you with where are you in your real estate journey, right? Are you just starting out? How are you seasoned, right? It doesn't matter where you are, but to get a strategy in place is one of the most important things, no matter where you're at in that. And so take some next steps and some next steps, right? We always say the 24-hour rule. You have 24 hours or else it leaves and you forget about us, right? Or you forget about what you wanted to do. And so we've got some QR links here for myself and Jason. You could schedule to meet with us, right? Thompson says a man who procrastinates in his choosing will inevitably have his choice made for him by circumstances. So don't let circumstances dictate what you're going and where you're going, right? We love to meet with you. We do a full financial review because these strategies are so unique to the individual. We always, if this is something that you're interested in, we'll always do a full financial review. We'll make sure that what you want to do and where you're going, it makes sense to do this. It is a phenomenal tool just to even have the financial review. And so there's the links still, but we're ready for some questions. If you guys have questions, or if we have questions, Alexa, we can go and answer some of those now.
I'm going to tackle a couple of the questions that are in the Q&A section. I love the first question is, how many whole life agents know this?
Mm.
Do you want to tackle that, Mike?
Sure. I don't think many know this because it messes with their commissions, right? And so a lot of times, when you're selling a product, your commission, like, oh, this commission, when you're doing something like this about IBC and utilizing it the way we do with the PUAs and everything, it cuts commissions by almost, 70 to 80% sometimes. And so it's not super favorable for the agent to do this, but it's really beneficial. I didn't get into this to be an agent. I got into this because of my family. And so as I saw, like, once your eyes are open to it, it's really impossible to do it any other way.
Just a good example is, so I grew up in my parents owned their own insurance agency. When I first learned about this, I don't know, 10 years ago, I was sitting explaining this to my mother. My father had passed away a long time ago, but she literally, the whole time I'm explaining this, sat with her jaw dropped. She's like, we sold this stuff for 20 years. We never knew it could do this. So not enough agents know about it. And the reason is that carriers aren't teaching them because they're not teaching them the concept. Remember, the concept, the infinite banking concept, is about controlling the banking function. Insurance carriers, their objective is life insurance. Like the life insurance carriers, their objective is life insurance, not how can you best utilize this as a financial strategy, right? That's not their objective. All right. So great question. The next question was, is there a physical required? Yeah, I think the short answer is it's life insurance. They are insuring a life. In 9 out of 10 cases, unless you're juveniles, there we can do what's called accelerated underwriting for certain situations as adults. We don't have to do the physical med exam, but they want to make sure you're going to live your best life, before they insure you. So yeah, there's generally some type of med exam involved. Third question I see is, how does the original amount of money continue to grow even though you've pulled out a loan against it? You want that, Mike?
Sure. Yeah, so that money continues to grow because you're not actually borrowing your money in cash value. You're borrowing the um, insurance carrier's money, right? And so you're paying interest on that, but that means that you're not using the bucket in which you have. Your bucket is still there growing while the insurance carrier is saying, oh, we can loan them this safely because we owe them a massive death benefit or a death benefit portion. So they don't actually touch your bucket of money. That's how it grows.
So we use the term borrow against your policy. We never say borrow from your policy per se, borrow against your cash value, I should say. And that's why, because you're actually borrowing the insurance carrier's money so that your pile of money can sit and grow uninterrupted.
Yeah.
Now, yes, they're going to, Mike mentioned it, and I know it's going to come up here. They charge an interest rate. Right now, the policies were putting out have a fixed 4% option for the whole rest of your life. You can borrow against a policy at 4%. And you're not going to see interest rates like that anymore. COVID days. We saw those COVID days. Now people will balk at the 4%. Well, I'm paying interest on my own money. One, it's not your own money. Remember, we just explained that. Two, when I've got a policy where, remember, I put 12,000 in, it grew 36,000 in premiums. I'm worried about a 4% simple interest loan because my growth is far outpacing that. Okay. So we just got to look at the big picture. Great question, though.
Yeah. And a lot of times you're paying, the way that you want to do it is pay simple interest and earn compound interest. And even if you have that money out and you're earning it compound and you're paying it simple, you're going to come out ahead in the long run.
Yep. Mike, is it required to put in annually?
No, it's not required to put in annually. Well, the base is required to put in annually, but you can put monthly in. You can do it monthly. You can do it quarterly. The base is really what sets the whole life policy up to last forever. So that is what is required. That's kind of the minimum amount. But you don't have to do it on an annual basis. You can do it monthly or quarterly, and then you can do PUAs as you want to, or as you get it in, or whatever it may be.
Right. And we want to work with you and come up with a strategy that makes sense for you. We do not want to set something up for you based on hopes and dreams. Okay.
Right.
I do not want you starting a policy with fingers crossed. I hope to God I can fund this policy the next 5 years. We want to move forward with confidence we can fund it the next 5 years or 10 years or whatever it is. Not
Yeah, and I
fingers
just had a
crossed.
client, same thing, they came to me, they said, "Hey, we want to do these policies." And we looked over their finances and it said, "Hey, I don't think we should do it right now. What we should do is get a convertible term, and then we'll come back to the whole life later. We'll come back to the permanent policy later." And so it doesn't mean you can't start. It just means that um, we need a few things in order for you to move forward with it. I'd rather you move forward with something that's going to be successful rather than you biting off more than you can chew, if that makes sense.
Yeah. All right. What is the average annual premium? That question it's not a one size fits all approach. It is not possible to answer that question because I've got clients doing $100 a month. I've got clients doing several $100,000 a year and everything in between. Okay. It is simply not a one size fits all approach. We're going to work with you in your situation. What are your goals and objectives? What's your financial situation? What do we want to accomplish? Maybe kind of like Mike alluded to, maybe we've got to tackle some things first before you can really dive into it. So maybe we need to set up some debt recapturing plan for you first before you can get this, and then we'll set you up with a strategy, and then we'll revisit it in 6 months or 12 months or whatever. So it's simply not a one size fits all approach.
I see one. It says, "Can you overpay the base and does it change the values?" So the base we're gonna set kind of in the beginning where it's like, "Hey, what does your plan look like?" And then depending on base to PUA ratio, it will change maybe the long, like way far out there. But it's not you can't really go alter the base every year. That's not really gonna change much. Once the values are set for the base, you can, but the PUAs, like, so the flexible portion of that, right? In the 10,000 example, let's say, what was it? 3,000 was the base.
Yeah.
And so that's gonna stay the same, but the 7,000 you can go up and down within that 7,000 if you so choose, because that's the flexible portion. But good
Mhm.
question.
Mhm. So spinning off of that, if you're older but in great health, can you fund it with a lump sum? So I'm going to say usually not. There are certain rare situations where you could do what's called single premium pay, but it's very rare. The reason is because of what we talked about earlier, MEC, modified endowment contract limits. The IRS has set certain limitations. You used to be able to do single premium, no problem. IRS stepped in the 80s, created this modified endowment contract rule, and basically said, we see what you guys are doing. We see what you're up to. So IRS does what they do, and they ruin it for everybody else. And So now you have limits. So if you were to do a single premium, say I were to just I wanted to dump in 200,000, you want to be done. Well, in most situations now you've changed the mathematics of it so much that it's not beneficial to you. Your base
Yeah.
premium is really high within that number. We have to do what's called a reduced pay up. Anyway, it creates more problems than wins for you in the end, I think. But we'll work with you and find a strategy to how can we get that same intended lump sum in as soon as possible over a few years. We just break it up and see. We'll see what it looks like.
Yep. And then I see another question. Are you able to purchase the policy through an LLC? As in the LLC, you buy real estate in? Yes, you can use LLCs, to purchase the policy, um, and to pay for it through the policy. They could be the payer. As long as your name is attached to it, they do need an insured, right? And so they're not just insuring the business, they're going to be insuring you as part of the business. And then the LLC can be the payer if need be.
Yep. And there are parameters like, again, in that strategy planning with Mike or myself, that's where we unpack that. And does it make sense?
Right.
Does it make sense? That's great. Thank you guys so much for your time. I know tons of questions. And if you want, you can scan this. We've got a free ebook you can download at 1024wealth.com/real estate. It is just a expanded summary of what we just talked about, more or less. So feel free to grab that. And thank you guys so much for sticking around. I'm going to hand it back to Alexa. Thank you so much for having us.
I'm not quite sure how to help you with that.
Oh, I have the device here.
She does not like
There
that.
he is.
No,
That's
I'm over here
so
scanning
funny.
the free book as well. Don't worry, guys. I'm going to send you all of the links in my thank you email that I'll send each and every one of you as soon as we hop off this webinar. I'll send you the ebook. I'll send you their booking links. Guys, extremely generous on links to schedule time with you guys. That is huge. Thank you so, so much. And thank you everyone who stuck on with us. I did pop in the link to catch this replay because, as the guy said in the beginning of the class, you're not going to become a pro at this in a 90-minute webinar, you guys. It takes actual action to start understanding these concepts fully. But I'm so happy to see how many of you see the value in this and just it's clicking, which makes me so happy because, again, this is something that is very, very impactful for Anish and his personal investments, for his family, for everything he does. And he preaches this to everyone that's close to him. If you bring this up with him, you will be like on a conversation for a while. So please, guys, make sure you bring this up with him, and please give us a 5-star Google review if you have a minute. I just dropped the link in the chat. Let us know how much you loved this class. Let's see if we can bring it back again sometime this year. I know I love to have this at least one time a year, but if you guys are loving this and you want more, let's see what we can do. Make sure you give us 5 stars and tell us your feedback on tonight's class. So without further ado, I have a winner for our raffle tonight. 1-year membership, $295 value. Winner is, congratulations, Craig F. You won tonight. I'll be in touch with you and make sure that you get your free membership for being here. And thank you guys. Thank you everyone who entered the raffle. I appreciate that. Please share this replay with somebody who needs to hear it, with your business partners, with your family members, siblings, parents, whoever you can. I'm sure that they will be very appreciative to get this information or to at least hear it in this digestible manner. Because maybe you've heard it before, but this is a really this is a great team that we have here, and we are super blessed to be connected with Mike and Jason through the National RIA. All of my members, all of the BPM RIA members, um, please log in your portals, start taking advantage of the member benefit with 1024 Wealth, book your calls. Everyone, book your calls with Mike and Jason. Don't book 5 calls with them, book one call. Let's please be respectful and make sure that they don't take this incredible opportunity away from us. But
Right.
thank you,
We
thank you
like to
guys.
talk.
I love it. I love it. And we will be in touch. So I'm so grateful for you guys. Thank you for all of your questions. Please look out for my
Oops, it froze.
Email.
Well, she'll come back on.
You guys hear me?
There, you're
Can
back.
you hear me now? Okay.
Oh.
Emails coming from me, Alexa at bpmria.com. Hopefully, I'm not setting off your devices as we speak. And I hope to hear from you guys, whether it's feedback from tonight's webinar, Google review, share the replay, all the things. So thank you, Mike and Jason. You guys are absolutely incredible. Thank you for everything you do, because it's extremely generous to share this information with us, and that I'm just proud of the community that we have that doesn't hold back and shares all of this information, all of these incredible strategies and concepts. So really appreciate you guys and hope to have you guys back very, very soon. But
Yeah, well, thank you for
Thanks
having us.
again. Thanks again.
absolutely. Absolutely. Thank you everyone for joining us. Please look out for my email from me. It'll be coming from me in just a couple minutes, and have a wonderful rest of the night. We'll see you guys not next week, but the week after. So, or Nextville Mastermind has a webinar tomorrow. So if you want to tune into that, go ahead. It'll be great. And I know that they have a mastermind.com. That is our local mastermind that we have here. So thank you guys and good night. Bye, guys.
Bye.
Yes.
Thank you so much. Bye bye.